Welcome back to a chapter a day. Happy Sabbath. I will be reading 2 Kings chapter 11 today. Yesterday we saw Jehu, who became the new king of Israel, cleaning up after Ahab's house. He had all of Ahab's sons, all of Ahab's servants, all of the priests that Ahab and Jezebel had put into place. They were all killed, like God had prophesied, that there would not be left a male descendant of Ahab, because Ahab was so wicked. And he did the same thing for the king of Israel. He had Ahaziah killed, because Ahaziah, I think, was visiting Joram, and as he had killed Joram, and Ahaziah was on his way to visit Joram, he also had Ahaziah killed, and anyone who was a Baal worshiper or a follower of Ahab's family, and he had them all killed. So today, let's see what takes place. Chapter 11. But the thing is, before I go on, Jehu himself was not fully upright with God. So when he died, his son Jehoahaz took over, and we'll see how he was, okay? Chapter 11. And when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the seed royal. But Jehosheba, the daughter of King Joram, sister of Ahaziah, took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him from among the king's sons, which was slain. And they hid him, even him and his nurse, in the bedchamber from Athaliah, so that he was not slain. And he was with her, hid in the house of the Lord for 6 years. And Athaliah did reign over the land. And the 7th year Jehoiada sent and fetched the rulers over hundreds, with the captains and the guard, and brought them to him into the house of the Lord, and made a covenant with them, and took an oath of them in the house of the Lord, and showed them the king's son. And he commanded them, saying, This is the thing that you shall do. A third part of you that enter in on the Sabbath shall even be keepers of the watch of the king's house. And a third part shall be at the gate of Sur, and a third part at the gate behind the guard. So shall you keep the watch of the house, that it be not broken down. And 2 parts of all that go forth on the Sabbath, even they shall keep the watch of the house and of the Lord about the king. And you shall compass the king round about, every man with his weapons in his hand, and he that cometh within the ranges, let him be slain. And be ye with the king as he goeth out and as he cometh in. And the captains over the hundreds did according to all things that Jehoiada the priest commanded, and they took every man his men that were to come in on the Sabbath, with them that should go out on the Sabbath, and came to Jehoiada the priest. And to the captains over hundreds did the priests give King David spears and shields that were in the temple of the Lord. So what's happening here is that, wow, Ahaziah's mother, Athaliah, and she was mentioned, I believe, a chapter or two before, when she saw Ahaziah was dead and most of Ahab's seed was gone, she decided that she too would destroy all the seeds, all of her, I guess, her husband's seed. And Athaliah, I'm not sure if she was Ahab's wife, but whosever wife she was, she decided to destroy all the royal seed. And so I think it was Ahaziah's seed that she was destroying, okay? And Ahaziah was her son. So she is not wanting any of his seed to become king. So I guess she's trying to set herself up as queen. So she kills everybody, but they hid one son of Ahaziah, which was Joash. And the priest hid him in the temple for 6 years. And on the 7th year, Jehoiada, who was the priest, he sent to let the rulers know, well, we need you to keep guard of the king. Okay, he showed them the boy that was hid, which was Joash, and said, we are going to make him king, So we're going to have to get guards around him, because if he's found out, of course, his life could be in danger. So that's the arrangement he's making right now. Verse 11. And the guards stood, every man with his weapons in his hand, round about the king, from the right corner of the temple to the left corner of the temple, along by the altar in the temple. And he brought forth the king's son, and put the crown upon him, and gave him the testimony, and they made him king, and anointed him. And they clapped their hands and said, God save the king. And when Athaliah heard the noise of the guard and of the people, she came to the people into the temple of the Lord. And when she looked, behold, the king stood by a pillar, as the manner was, and the princes and the trumpeters by the king. And all the people of the land rejoiced and blew with trumpets. And Athaliah rent her clothes and cried, Treason, treason. But Jehoiada the priest commanded the captains of the hundreds, the officers of the host, and said unto them, Have her forth without the ranges, and him that followeth her kill with the sword. For the priest had said, Let her not be slain in the house of the Lord. So, while all of that is happening and they're trying to protect the king and crown him king, they already did. They went through the inauguration ceremony and he's now king. And she, the mother, which is the boy's grandmother, finds out that that's happening, and she's crying out, treason, treason, because now she has proclaimed herself queen. So they're committing treason against her. She rents her clothes, and Jehoiada the priest tells the captains of the guards around, you know what? Bring her out of the temple and kill her, because we don't want her killed in the house of God. Wow, lots of killings. Verse 16. And they laid hands on her, and she went by the way by which the horses came into the king's house, and there was she slain. And Jehoiada made a covenant between the Lord and the king and the people, that they should be the Lord's people, between the king also and the people. And all the people of the land went into the house of Baal and brake it down. His altars and his images brake they in pieces thoroughly, and slew Matan, the priest of Baal, before the altars. And the priest appointed officers over the house of the Lord. And he took the rulers over the hundreds, and the captains and the guards, and all the people of the land. And they brought down the king from the house of the Lord, and came by the way of the gate of the guard to the king's house. And he sat on the throne of the kings. And all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was in quiet. And they slew Athaliah with the sword beside the king's house. 7 years old was Jehoash when he began to reign. Wow. And sometimes they give different names for the same persons, because at the very beginning of the chapter, they refer to him as Joash. Here they're referring to him as Jehoash. Same person. Okay. Very interesting. So we see Athaliah, which was Joash's grandmother and the mother of Ahaziah, looking to kill. She killed all the royal seed from Ahaziah, but Joash was hid in the temple until he became 7 years old, and they brought him out, inaugurated him king. And then when the grandmother Athaliah, found out, she cried treason, and they took her out of the temple and had her killed. And they finished breaking up some of the houses of Baal. So I guess Baal worshiping was just rampant in Israel. Just rampant. No wonder God had to cleanse the whole place. And all of these people, the seeds and descendants of these kings who encouraged such behavior among the people. And they were all of Ahab's seed. All of Ahab's seed. These are the ones that are being gotten rid of. And once she was out of the way, Joash was able to start reigning as king. And Jehoiada the priest made the people swear that they would follow God, and that's how they were able to break up the rest of the house of Baal. Because I guess Athaliah herself was pushing idolatry. Mercy. You see that among God's people. These people whose ancestors were brought out of bondage in Egypt and came all the way through the wilderness hundreds of years before. Now these people are committing idolatry, just like all the other pagan nations. And God has to cleanse everything. Even the temple of God is where they've been worshiping Baal. It seems harsh, but it is what God has to do. He has to cleanse the temple. And this is the temple here that he has to cleanse. This is what we keep defiling with things. Physically, emotionally, mentally, visually, everything gets in these temples. And we need to cleanse ourselves ever so often. Think about the things we do and say and think. So that's it, the short reading for today. But I thank you all for viewing, and remember, keep listening because faith comes by hearing God's word. Take care.